to the stage today's MC, the Director of the Manatee County Extension Office, Samantha Kennedy. Samantha has worked with the UF IFAS Manatee County Extension Services for 11 years, spending the first 9 as the Family and Consumer Science Agent, specializing in nutrition, food safety, home energy efficiency, and family financial management. Samantha, thank you for attending the event today, and good morning. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and as Kelly said, my name is Samantha Kennedy. I am the Extension Director here in Manatee County and have been for almost all of the last 2 years. And I am very pleased and honored to be here today with you emceeing this luncheon. This year's theme is Sustainability and Farm to Table. And there couldn't be a more fitting venue for our festivities today than the beautiful Bradenton Area Convention Center. Doesn't the room just look beautiful today? With all of the farm tables and the edible centerpieces, it just looks, I walked in and I think my jaw hit the floor. It looks so beautiful. And so let's give a big hand to our sponsors, which were earlier at least on the screens here on the sides. So I don't have a list in front of me, so my apologies to the sponsors. There they are. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay. I want to take a few moments this afternoon to acknowledge some of the members that we have, several members of our Tourist Development Council, as well as some of our area's elected officials. So please bear with me as I list these. And when I call your name, you can either stand up or just wave from your seat to the crowd, okay? County Commissioners, Manatee County Commissioners, we have Commissioner Betsy Benak, Commissioner Vanessa Baugh, Commissioner Larry Bussell, Commissioner John Chappie, and Commissioner Carol Whitmore. Our County Administrator, Mr. Ed Hunziker, is with us today as well. And our Deputy County Administrator, Ms. Karen Winden, is here with us. Somewhere. There you are. Hi, Karen. And then our Tourism Development Council members who are with us today. Vanessa Baugh, we've already introduced. Vice Chair David Teitelbaum. Ed Childs. Vernon Desir. Jean Peelan. Barbara Rodecker. I hope I did not butcher that name. My apologies. Dale Sconyers. And that is all we have with us today. Again, one more round of applause for our dignitaries today. Okay. Now we'd like to ask you all to put down your forks just for a moment and stand to join us in the singing of the national anthem. We're going to do it as a group to make it even more festive. And then we'll have an invocation by Commissioner Larry Bussell afterwards. Excellent job. If you would remain standing just for a few moments longer, Commissioner Larry Bussell is going to have an invocation for us.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray for your blessings for us today. We thank you for the many blessings we share from your creation of this area where we live. We thank you for the opportunities we gain from the beauty of the beaches and the environment, and we ask for wisdom to help us preserve them. We appreciate and thank you for the food we're about to enjoy, much of which comes also from the richness of this land where we live. Guide us today as we recognize the leaders who help us to realize the benefits of your bounty. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, please have a seat and go back to enjoying your lovely meal in front of you. I did want to make one mention of what UFIFAS stands for, in case some of you are not aware. I wanted to do this earlier, but I forgot. That is the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, which is the umbrella under which the Extension Service is within the state of Florida. So just wanted to clarify that in case you are wondering. We have a lot of acronyms in our business. Okay, well, at this time, I would like to introduce Executive Marketing Manager of the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Debbie Meals.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and please enjoy the bountiful food that we have locally sourced for you. It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, Mr. David Randall from the U.S. College of Sustainable Tourism. He is the director there. And I just found out a couple minutes ago that we're going to get a special preview of the presentation that he will be making at Windsor to talk about global sustainability. Actually, Anna Maria Island and some of the initiatives that Mr. Childs has done will be talked about on a global level. So David Randall is an avid sustainability leader, teacher. He's been involved in many committees to protect the coastal habitat, the blue communities, and he'll be talking about planetary boundaries. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Randall.
Thank you, Debbie. My wife said to me the other day, do you realize it's already May? And you know what that means? And I'm thinking, what does May mean? The Kentucky Derby? And she said, no, not the Kentucky. Anybody watch the Kentucky Derby? Few? The Kentucky Derby is always the big horse race of the year, but there was one yesterday that was reported that I thought also was kind of interesting as well. There was an accountant apparently in New York who had a habit of betting on the horses. And he was always looking for signs of what is the right horse to bet on. And he woke up yesterday morning and realized it was May 5th and his digital clock said 5:55. And he had left his television station on the night before on Channel 5. So he thought, boy, all these signs, the synchronicity, this is really something. I better be prepared. So I decided to go to the bank just in case. So he gets a cab, and it was cab 55, and the fare to the bank was exactly $5.55. He could hardly take it. He gets out all his money, but he's a solid citizen. He goes to work, and he notices his first appointment is at 555 Fifth Avenue. And he arrives and finds out he's going to be working on the 5th floor. So he's going a little bit nuts by this time, and he can hardly stand it. And he does his trial balance as accountants do, and it comes out $5,555,555.55. Well, he can't stand it anymore, and he calls his boss. He says, I've got to have the rest of the day off. And his boss senses the desperation, says, I hope everything's okay. Oh, yeah, this is going to be the greatest day of my life. He races down, and there it is again, cab 55, Aqueduct Raceway. And he gets there just in time for the 5th race, and he's dropped off at ticket seller number 5. But he's prepared because he went to the bank. He bets all his money. The horses are getting ready to start. Everybody's excited. the race starts, and sure enough, that horse came in fifth. And I think sustainability is a lot like that. We see all the signs out there, but we have a little bit of trouble in interpreting them. We are entering what scientists call the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is really a new age. We have left the Holocene, scientists are telling us. We have entered the Anthropocene, where humans are having the major impact on what the future destination of not only our species, but every other species and ecosystem on the planet will be. And I want to show you a few of the signs that that is really where we are in the age of the Anthropocene. Beginning with the fact that we now have 7.2 billion people on the planet. But these people are not distributed evenly. In fact, two countries, China and India, account for 2.5 billion of that number. Florida does not escape the impacts of population either. First, it was Orlando being the first city to reach 50 million tourism visitors, and now Florida actually has more population than the state of New York. These aspects of growth, if you look at these satellite maps and you draw the conclusions, you find that we have to look at alternatives to transportation other than the automobile, because we simply cannot keep up with the growth and building more and more roads. So these are the signs for population. And we are facing wetland destruction. We're looking at all kinds of damage to our coral reefs in the Florida Keys and the reef system, and many other impacts if we don't take these population issues seriously. Each day, Florida loses 450 acres of forest and 410 acres of farmland every single day due to development. So I want to contrast a little bit Florida and the UK, because the UK is facing a different kind of population growth. They're the 8th most popular destination in tourism in terms of global tourism attractions. They have had the fastest population growth in the last decade and are second now only to Germany as the largest country in Europe with 64 million people. In their case, immigration has accounted for 60% of that growth. And they've increased 5 million people in the last 13 years, where it took 37 years to achieve the same 5 million increase preceding that. The amount of land per person to accommodate all of their food, all of their waste, all of their ecosystem services is only 1 acre per person, and that's decreasing. And this is a metaphor of what's happening all over the world in many regions with our population and increased impacts from development. China and India, as I mentioned before, China is still the largest country in the world with 1.35 billion, but they've been able to slow their growth rate to 0.47%, where they're now the 159th fastest growing country. So they've really slowed it down quite significantly. But they still have major problems with greenhouse gas emissions. They have now surpassed the United States as being the largest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. And they have water resources and pollution issues as well. India, on the other hand, second in population with 1.27 billion, is on a pace to pass China by 2025 and to reach 1.6 billion by 2050. And they have major problems of water, pollution, and waste management already that they have to deal with. Next, we have patterns of roads and urban concentrations. If you take out the huge ice sheets, 75% of all the land in the world is now controlled by humans. Roads, urban concentrations, agriculture, and other factors. And that impact hits Florida as well, with depletion of groundwater and surface waters in the Everglades, pollution from agricultural runoff. Over 50% of the wetlands in our state have already been destroyed. And the wetlands are the filter for many pollutants and help to reduce the impacts from storms, help with habitat for fish and wildlife, and other economic and aesthetic values which make tourism thrive in our state. The UK is a little bit different situation, where the majority of human influences have driven a decline in all of their ecosystems throughout the country. The exceptions are their enclosed woodlands and urban ecosystems, where they have enhanced those, but overall has shown depletion. And then we have found that 40% of the land for the entire world has been converted to farms, which threaten the world's biodiversity. Productive agricultural land is becoming more scarce around the world. And then we have 50% of our forests that are also gone, with being the most critical issue in land use change. Florida deforestation contributes to erosion, climate change, biodiversity loss, vector diseases, to give a few examples. And in the UK, by contrast, their forests are almost 100% gone, and they have found them to be a critical role in storing carbon for water purification. They build resilience to extreme weather events and help people to adapt for the future. Around 1.2 billion people directly depend on forests for livelihood, and we're depleting them at a very frightening rate, not to mention the species that are maybe going to extinction as a result. The UK has made this a #1 priority and allocated $3.87 billion to their climate change fund to try to address forests alone. And then we have extinction of species, which I've mentioned a few times, which is happening at a rate of 100 to 1,000 times faster than nature intended. Studies have shown that this extinction may rival that of the age of the dinosaurs, where we saw so many species no longer existing. And so where are we with tourism and protection of these lands? Only 10% of the areas in the world have any kind of legal protection. And many of those so-called legal protected areas are not very well protected because there's no resources for enforcement. So it's far less than the 10% figure. So all of this leads to what the University of Stockholm, Sweden Resiliency Center has labeled the challenge of living within the framework of planetary boundaries. And they've identified 9 planetary boundaries, including climate change, ocean acidification, ozone depletion, nitrogen phosphorus overload, land use change, particularly forests, biodiversity loss, aerosol overloading, and chemical pollution. We have developed a project at the University of South Florida in the Blue Community Program to look at models for tourism to address these issues. And the key principles in the center you see are sustainable management, the social issues, the economic issues, and the environmental stewardship. within those areas, we can create a safe operating system where we can continue economic growth, but being safe within these 9 planetary boundaries. And I want to just give you little snapshots of some of the best practices that are happening around the world, many of them here in Florida through both the Anna Maria Island projects and also Walt Disney World, which is the reason Ed and I have been invited to speak at this global conference at Windsor next week. But let's start with climate change and ocean acidification. They're both really related to the same issue, too much carbon emission, which I know in Florida is a hot topic, but we've got to find ways that we can address this issue. Some of the best practices that I mentioned are here in Florida. Walt Disney World, for example, has set a goal to be a net zero carbon company. They set that goal in 2008 with an interim goal to reduce their carbon emissions 50% by the end of 2012, and they succeeded in doing so. They also have done something unique. They put a carbon tax on every single one of their business units. So their theme parks, their cruise ships, their media publication, their movie industries, every single business unit has to pay a carbon tax internally every year, which is then used to purchase carbon offsets. So they've really become a leader in addressing these issues. There's also an interesting model in Grenada, where in Grenada, they not only purchase carbon offsets for their own operations, they do it for their guests as well. So when you arrive at Paradise Bay Villas in Grenada, they said, "Where did you fly from?" You say, I flew in from Tampa Airport. Okay, they'll calculate the carbon emissions for that, and then they'll pay your carbon offset. But they don't stop there. They ask you to log all of the activities while you're at the resort, and they calculate those carbon emissions as well. So they pay for all those carbon emissions. So these are two of the real leaders in addressing this carbon emission issue. And this is, I'm not going to go into this detail of the model, but I just want to show that Walt Disney has taken this very seriously, and with 800,000 metric tons of carbon, they have a very comprehensive system for reducing that to get it down to zero. They have a long way to go, but they've made a lot of progress in a very short period of time. The second planetary boundary is biodiversity loss. This is actually a group of mountain gorillas in the Congo that were threatened from being wiped out because they got caught in the middle of a war between the rebels and the government troops and nowhere to go. So the United Nations and Walt Disney Company teamed together, and the UN helicopters went in, tranquilized each gorilla, picked it up in the helicopter, and flew it to new land purchased by the Walt Disney Company so this gorilla group would not be eliminated. So that's one example. Some other examples of what they've done for biodiversity loss include the Columbia Cottontail Monkey Project, where they actually have taken a disaster of a species that was threatened for extinction and created a campaign where unemployed women were taught to make like little stuffed like teddy bear things, but they're cottontail monkeys, and it became adopted nationally by every kid wanted one. And so now, how can you kill these treasured things that all of the kids have grown up with and love? And they've actually saved the monkey as a result, while simultaneously giving these women jobs, and it was ranked by the UNDP as the #1 development project for saving biodiversity in the world. They also, many of you know, established the Disney Wilderness Preserve that is now owned and managed by the Nature Conservancy, but it is still to this day considered the model project for wetlands preservation and restoration. And then they also have a project in Indonesia by just changing the policy of how they purchase paper that is now going to save the Bengal tigers and the forests there that were being cut down by Disney before this new policy change. So those are some examples for biodiversity loss. Water was the topic 2 years ago for the World Tourism Day. It's a major thing that we all know is precious, and we have to account for 97% of the water on this planet is not fresh water for us to use. We have a very finite resource that we need to manage carefully for fresh water use. And there's some good examples in tourism that are doing that. In St. Lucia, for example, they established two 8,000 gallon tanks where they store rainwater, and when they have the heavy floods, which in the past had shut down water systems, they can now continue. But more importantly, they're not impacting the local communities and taking all of their fresh water away just to serve tourism. If some of you know the story in Cancun, that's exactly what happened. So the tourists have the water for the Gulf and their hotels, and the local people literally have no water because it wasn't planned very well in dealing with that. Disney has set up a sophisticated water management system. I got to tour this a few months ago, and I felt like I was in one of those Star Wars scenes, or Star Trek scenes rather, where Captain Kirk's at the big console with all the buttons and everything, and they push a button here and that zeroes into the animal kingdom. They push it here, it zeroes into the attraction. They push it there, and they get the readings on water turbidity and the quality and everything, and they literally manage for this whole area twice the size of the city of Manhattan from this one Star Trek kind of console. But the carefulness of this management has resulted that in the last 22 years, they have not changed the net aquifer level at all, despite building 2 new theme parks, several new resorts, new hospitals, etc., which is pretty amazing to do that much development. They've actually decreased the per capita level about 15% as well. So they've done really remarkable things in that area. They also are taking 30% of their resort water needs, and 80% of their irrigation needs are now coming from reclaimed water. They've really made that a real science. But I don't want to just focus on Disney alone, because another great example is in Bermuda. If you know the Bermuda story, it wasn't that long ago when they had a drought, and they literally did not have water for the tourists that were there. So they had to ration which days the tourists could take showers. They said no more drinking water in the restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. It was really a pretty embarrassing and challenging thing. So they have now mandated that every single tourism building has to have a rainwater collection system. And they have also capped the number of tourist beds. So if you want to build a new hotel, you have to wait till somebody else goes out of business. And then they bid on who gets the rights to that, and the bidding is done by who's going to do it more sustainably. So this is, and water is one of the key factors in that criteria for sustainability. Land use change and forest protection. The Disney Conservation Fund is available now, generating about $15 million a year. They've donated $17 million to the RED program, which is reducing the impacts from forests. They purchased 7 million acres of forest for preservation in Peru, the Congo, and the Pacific Northwest in the U.S. And they are making contributions also through their Disney nature movies. If you buy tickets there, a percentage of that goes to these forest preservations as well. This has become one of their top priorities for preservation. Chemical pollution, we all are very aware of the impacts of the BP oil spill, but chemicals come to us in many forms, and mostly through our inability to do good waste management. So some of the key areas for waste management are the Sheraton in San Diego that have moved to zero waste to landfill as a hotel resort. The Marriott hotels are diverting over 1 million pounds of e-waste. The animal kingdom has got to the point where they now have no toxics at all in any of their cleaning for the entire theme park in the Disney Animal Kingdom. And the Disney Cruise Line has developed a new hull coating that has no toxics in the hull coating, and it makes the cruise ships more fuel efficient simultaneously. So it's a win-win thing. So these are some of the ways we're addressing the chemical issues and tourism. Nitrogen and phosphorus overload. This is a huge problem. When I moved to Florida with the International Ocean Institute in 2005, there were about 200 ocean dead zones. There's now over 400 in just the last 10 years, more than doubled. And this is where our local community in Anna Maria Island has really got the United Nations attention of how they're doing the food, because it's a model that they feel is a global model that needs to be shared around the world. They bill themselves, you know, as the greenest town in America. They have the edible gardens. Welcome to the Mullet Republic. You can see with the nearby Cortez Village, and Ed Childs can say a lot more about that project. But also the Gamble Creek Farms and the composting and the Wild Pig Program, all integrated together. When Sarbulan Khan from the UN World Tourism Organization saw this, he said, this is a global model that has to be shared, and he's doing everything he can to have both Ed and I share this model, not only at Windsor, but we've been invited to speak to high-level tourism ministers in July at the United Nations headquarters as well. So I just want to give you, in closing, some of the benchmarks of a new resort that Disney is developing in France that will really be a game changer if they do everything they say they're going to do. These are the self-imposed, this is not required by law, these are self-imposed sustainability metrics that this resort, the Village Nature Eco Resort, has taken on. First of all, it's going to be a large ecotourism resort with the first phase being 1,730 units. But they've committed from day one they will have zero carbon emissions. They're not going to reduce it to zero, they're going to start with zero. There will never be any carbon emissions for their energy system in this resort. Second, there will be zero waste to landfill from day one. Third, they will have sustainable transportation. They're building a train line in from the airport to the resort. And there's, I don't know if they'll do this or not, but they actually have one of the proposals seriously being considered is once you arrive at the resort, if you insist on driving a car, you have to keep your car locked up until you leave. You can't use your car the entire time while you're staying in their resort. So that's a pretty major commitment to transportation. Sustainable water. They will never lower the aquifer levels. In fact, they will never draw on the aquifer water for the water sourcing of this entire resort. Local sustainable food. At all times of the year, there will be a minimum of 28% of the food sourced locally. They will have local sustainable materials used in the building of all of the development. They will have strong programs to protect the habitat and wildlife of the area. And incidentally, what that means is 90% of their land will remain green and open space. So only 10% of the land will actually be used for development. Protection of cultural heritage and local partnerships for fair trade for the workers. And the theme of the resort will be to encourage quality of life and well-being. Sustainable tourism can make a tremendous difference in the world. Tourism is accounting globally for 10.5% of the world's GDP, 12.5% of the world's workforce. It's the fastest growing industry in the world, and the fastest growing sector is sustainable tourism and ecotourism. Projections are that internationally we're going to increase from last year's 1 billion international visitors to 1.6 billion by 2020. where are we going to put those people if we don't do this more sustainably without major devastation and further transgression of these planetary boundaries? So we have a new initiative that I want to announce, that we're putting together a consortium of local, state, national, and international groups to study particular areas such as this area here. Walt Disney World, Key West has offered to be one of the study areas, that we can share the Florida models around the world. And I hope all of you will find ways to support and participate in those efforts. Thank you very much.
It is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Ben Parks is the owner of Ben Parks and Associates. His primary responsibility is lobbying members of the State Senate, House of Representatives, and the Governor's Office on legislative issues affecting agribusiness. But his passion lies in the promotion of agritourism throughout the state of Florida. For 23 years, he was State Legislative Director for the Florida Farm Bureau. He presently represents the Florida State Beekeepers Association, Florida Crystals Incorporated, and the Florida Agritourism Association. He was born and raised in Naples, Florida. We'll be showing you a brief video, and then Mr. Parks will come up and speak with us. So let's give him a round of applause before he does that.
Finally tonight, no one ever got into farming to get rich. It's never going to be confused with investment banking. Family farms mean hard work, loving the land and your stock, up early, in bed early, and lean years, to say the least. But lately, more of them have realized their own beauty, and they're watching a growing number of people who are willing to pay money to come and enjoy the land they work for a living. Our report tonight from NBC's Janet Shamlian in Atkins, Iowa.
Cheering on the winner at a pig race, or feeding the animals at a well-stocked petting zoo.
He feels kind of like a warm winter sweater.
It would be easy to mistake this for a country fair.
It's almost like a small amusement park.
It's $46, please.
But the crowds lining up and paying $11.50 each have come not to a theme park, but to a working corn and soybean farm along a rural Iowa road.
Did you ever think you'd be doing something like that?
Not in my wildest dreams.
Dave Peterson is the 5th generation to farm this land.
Looks real good.
But the first to charge admission.
It's the farm as entertainment venue. They call it agritourism, and fall is the peak season for attractions like this corn maze, which can bring in thousands of dollars each day.
We need to back out.
At Bloomsbury Farm, it stretches 10 acres and can take hours to navigate.
We got lost. Austin was navigating us, and he led us into a lot of dead ends.
It's not just the Corn Belt. Across the country, there are hundreds of mazes on working farms open to the public. At last count, more than 23,000 U.S. farms make extra money from agritourism, totaling $500 million. At Bloomsbury Farm, between the price of admission, pumpkin sales, and the extra $20 to ride the newest attraction, a zip line, tourism dollars make up 30% of profits.
Corn's up, down, soybeans, we had a drought this year. This keeps it steady for us, keeps a steady income because it's grown that much.
So much that Peterson has 40 people working for her this time of year, some of them actors. Because at dusk, there's a whole new paying crowd for Fright Night, as farmers take advantage of the season to harvest extra cash. Janet Shamlian, NBC News, Atkins, Iowa.
Now think about this. Iowa. What do they have in Iowa? Corn, soybeans, corn. You have more things here in Manatee County than they have in their whole state of Iowa. So why can't we do just as good as they have? Why go to Iowa to find out about agritourism when we can have agritourism here in the state of Florida? And just to deviate from my script, if you want, we were talking about sustainability. And I just want you to know, and we're always worried about what's happening in the carbon footprints and everything, but I want you to know here in America, especially here in the state of Florida, only 10 to 12% of your income goes to food. Our farmers and ranchers do their best every day, up early, produce the cheapest, most abundant food in the whole world. And back in the 1940s, food cost about 40 to 42% of our income. Now it's only 10 to 12%. We're lucky, because if you just leave the farmers alone, let them do what they do best, we'll prosper. And one way we can do this is agritourism. Our farmers and ranchers over the years have always opened their farms, ranches. Come on, school children, come on out. I'll show it to you. People from all around the United States and also from Europe come in and say, can I come out to your dairy farm? Can I come out there? And I've never heard a farmer rancher say no, or they might be in the middle of maybe harvest. They say, well, hold on, let us get through and then come on out. They've always welcomed visitors. So we, back in 2007, decided to pass a law about agritourism, that there is such a thing. And then 2 years ago, we passed an even stronger agritourism statute to help our farmers and ranchers to open up their farms to actually have some extra income. And the key thing was, and I put this out here, is liability. Many farmers, liability, they always have a trial lawyer nearby, nothing against trial lawyers. But, there's a slip and fall, somebody falls or does something, they're going to get sued. So farmers and ranchers are really worried about opening up, charging emission and anything. So we passed this law that there's inherent risk when you go out to your farm. And so unless the farmer intentionally wants to kill you, maim you, or something like that, you'll be able to go out. And so now farmers and ranchers are opening up their farms. It might be for having a petting zoo or a wedding event or whatever it might be. We have the Dakins here and the Mixons here that open up, have their festivals. And I know many of you have been out to them. It's a joy to be out there, and I enjoy it a great deal. And so what we're here as the Florida Agritourism Association, we formed about 1.5 years ago. We've come out with a toolkit. Now, I've got just 3 copies, and they're supposed to be passing across here. I want people to look at it. And it's all about, if a farmer or rancher would like to get into agritourism, what they need to know. It's going to the publisher in about 2 weeks, but this is the first time we're going to let people look at it, see what they think, and please don't walk off with them, because the publisher is saying, I want those 3 copies back. But it talks about getting into agritourism, what needs to be. And this is how we're going to help sustain agriculture here in the state of Florida. Now, the statute, I just wanted to let you know, in the statute itself, and I've got copies of the statute out front, what is an agritourism activity? It means any agriculture-related activity consistent with a bona fide farm or ranch or in a working forest which allows members of the general public for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes to view or enjoy activities, including farming, ranching, historical, cultural, or harvest-owned activities and attractions. Now, that's a lot. And so basically what we're saying is you could do a lot of things on your farms. A big thing recently, and although we're working with local governments on this, because local governments, nothing against county commissioners, they're always looking at money. They've always left the farmers alone, and up in Hillsborough County, all of a sudden, a lot of people, farmers were up there saying, maybe I should have weddings on our farm. And a couple of people are making a lot of money doing weddings. And of course, the fire marshal comes out and says, I think this is an old barn, it needs a sprinkler system, what about a water tank, this and that. And then if you have it outside, here comes growth management saying, wait a minute, you got to be zone commercial in order to have a wedding. Wait, isn't a wedding a religious activity? Are you telling us that we cannot have a wedding on our farm? So we're going through these growing pains right now. Not to say anything's ever happened in Manatee County, but Hillsborough, Polk County, they're looking at, we can get some more permitting, some more money. And so we're working through those to, stay out of the farmer's business. And that's the last thing that the farmers want. Now, we look at agritourism. What is it going to do? It's going to bring in more money, hopefully show the value of your farm, to keep people on the farm. We have a friend of mine, her name of her farm is Wishing Well, up in Hillsborough County. She has an 80-acre small cattle ranch. And 4 months out of the year, her husband used to have to go be a welder, travel around the country, making enough money so she could stay on the farm. And it wasn't until, about 1.5 years ago, a friend of hers said, can we have our wedding out there? So she went and had the wedding. And other people said, we really like this area. Can we have our wedding out there? Next thing you know, she had a couple more weddings, and you'll see the toolkit coming over. He finally, late last year, she told her husband he didn't need to go out on the road anymore. He could stay home. And he bought him a new tractor based on the money that she made from the wedding. And now she's going to buy the next block of land next to her to expand her cattle ranch. But it took upon that wife to say, I want my husband home. So I've been hearing more stories about this. keeping people back home, keeping the children back home. You know, how can you do this? And so there's a lot of interesting stories on agritourism. We ask that Manatee County, really give it, some time to develop. Don't go in there with regulations to try to hinder the operations. The Dakins and the Mixons are doing such a good job, and I'm sure others in the county would like to be just like them. And so let them do that. Another story I want to just mention to you is there are certain times where, in tragic situations, people come together. On the table, I left a couple of brochures. It's called the Redland Trail. You'll see a couple of brochures there. Well, what happened, remember Hurricane Andrew back in 1994, wiped out Homestead, completely devastated the area. And so everybody tried to get them back, their businesses back. And standing alone, they could not do it. They tried, and they tried. And so about 2 years later, 8 of the businesses got together. And if you look at the brochure, as you open it up, they have 8 different businesses, and then added 2 more. They all got together, and they were, an eclectic bunch, from a winery to a bonsai garden to Everglades alligator farm to a monkey jungle. They all got together one day. Let's work together. So they pooled all their money to make this little brochure. At that time, was this small. So then what happens is that as business started to be created, they made a map where you can go. They're still competition with each other, but you know where to go. The guy from the winery used to joke about, come to the winery, have some wine tasting. By the time you get down to this tropical fruit stand, he's got a special drink that you can have to get rid of that wine that you just had down the street. And so everybody's working together. And so then what happens? The hotels decided, we'd like to be part of this too. Hotels started joining in. And now I heard the other day the bankers are going to join in. Now the hotel and bankers are now paying for this brochure. Everybody working together in Homestead to stay in business. And that's the same thing with your community, just working together to promote each other. And for agritourism, this is what's going to help us have the safest, most abundant food, the cheapest food in the world. And I hope you continue to support our farmers and ranchers. We continue to work with the legislators, if they don't implode or explode again, to continue to have regulations statewide that are streamlined to help our farmers and ranchers to actually get more money, to more value for their land by having fewer regulations on them. So I know you've got a long program, and I just want to thank you so much for being here. I'll be out back if anybody would like to know more about our association, the Florida Agritourism Association, or if you'd like me to come and speak to your group, I'd be glad to come out. It's good to see Ed Childs. Your father did a great deal for us in agriculture, and we appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben, for speaking with us. I just wanted to say, I'm going to deviate from the script just for a second here, just because on behalf of the Extension Service, I don't know how many of you are aware, but every year we do at least 3 to 4 agricultural tours. So we take folks out and we let them visit a variety of local agricultural farms and other kinds of related businesses. And it's one of our most popular things that we do. And we don't always market it as agritourism, but that's exactly what it is. And for those of you in the room today who have opened up your doors and your hearts to us and allowed us to bring about 200 people to your place for a tour and taken the time out to teach citizens about what you do and the importance of agriculture, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of our clients and our staff and our faculty at the Extension Service. So again, thank you very much for that. We have one coming up in November, by the way, in case you're interested. As many of you know, once again, last year was another banner year for visitation to our area. And here to tell you more about it is the Director of Communications of the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Kelly Clark.
Thank you, Samantha. 2014 truly was, yet again, another great year for visitation to our area. In a moment, we're about to show you just how successful the year was. But more than just continually improving visitation statistics, our area is growing and maturing as a destination. Last year saw additional new product and visitor amenities added to our area, giving people more to do, more to enjoy, and more reasons to visit. New hotels and accommodations have joined our market, adding to our rich mix of visitors. New area events have been added to our annual roster, and our sports segment is continuing to draw thousands to the area, many for the first time, who, as statistics have shown, will return again and again. But more than just statistics, the numbers you're about to see represent a very real impact on our community. They mean that someone was able to find a job. It means a local entrepreneur was able to realize a lifelong dream. And it means that as a tourism community, we didn't just take, we gave back and made a difference. So without further ado, here's how we did in 2014. Those were your numbers and your achievement. In our continued commitment to remain as green as possible, you'll find this year's annual visitor profile uploaded to our partner portal at BradentonGolfIslands.com/industry. Samantha?
Now I would like to turn our attention to some very special people who work hard to ensure that visitation to our destination happens, and that's all of you here in this room. Each of us can be an area ambassador, so whether you own the biggest restaurant or the largest resort in our area, or simply help visitors pump gas or buy a souvenir, you're an important part of our visitors' experience in the area and a big part of whether they'll return again and again. An important part of an ambassador is Tourism Gives Back, an annual event where those who benefit so greatly from our community being such a wonderful area to visit give back to our local community. Last year, Tourism Gives Back aided the work for our local Habitat for Humanity. This year, we focused on the community outreach work of our local farms, and here's just a small representation of what our local farms do to give back.
Each year during our celebration of Tourism Week, we have taken a moment to recognize those in our community that give back. And this year, as we celebrate the special connection between our agricultural community and area tourism, we're delighted to note that so many of our area farms not only open their doors to our visitors, but give back to our community as well. Just 3 of the many area farms given back to our community are Gamble Creek Farm in Parrish, Geraldson Community Farm in Bradenton, and Dakin Dairy Farms, Mayaca City.
I'm Ed Childs. This is Gamble Creek Farm. The history of Manatee County begins with small A agriculture and seafood. And this facility is one of the great community farms that are in our area and that are really important to the character and the fabric of our community. This is a 26-acre farm. The produce and the great vegetables and the herbs and the things that come out of this farm go to the 3 restaurants of the Childs Group, the Sandbar, the Beach House, and Mar Vista. And even more than that, it allows us to take our waste stream and bring it out here and compost it. You know, instead of putting things in the landfill, we're able to use this farm to show how you can take that waste stream and you can put it to use and you can grow things for your community and for the restaurants in our community. Gamble Creek provides another great way and an avenue for us to give back to the community through working with farm-to-table dinners, supplying the product here to different events, and working with people throughout the community on how we perpetuate this model of community-supported agriculture.
Hi, my name is Krista Leonard and I am the farm manager at Geraldson Community Farm. Geraldson Community Farm is a 20-acre organic CSA farm. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, which means it is an exchange between a local farm and the local community to provide fresh and organic vegetables weekly or every other week to our community. We provide a training farm for new farmers where you can apply to be an apprentice. You've had no experience farming, you can come in and learn and essentially go off and run your own program. A huge focus for us is youth education. So we're in the process of starting a summer camp by inviting people into our space because we've been blessed with 20 acres of beauty. We have been able to throw multiple festivals, including our fall festival. We have a spring festival coming up. We provide pickling classes, juicing classes, cooking, providing newsletters to the community about why it is important to eat organic, why it is important to eat local. It's a great experience being in farmers markets, for them to be able to go to the farmers market, connect with the person who actually picked their vegetables is a really beautiful exchange, I think, and has really built our community up here.
I'm Karen Dakin with Dakin Dairy Farms. My husband Jerry and I own a 1,000-acre sustainable family farm in Mayaca City, where we produce and bottle about 90,000 gallons of milk a week, coming from about 2,500 milking cows. We started agritourism on the farm about 6 years ago. It was a natural fit because of all of the used to be farmers that are now coming down for the snowbird life that they have, and they wanted to come see the farm. So between them and the schools that were contacting us, it was an absolute natural fit. We are really blessed to be able to give back to the community, to some amazing ministries that really have a need that needs to be met. Not only do we give them our milk, but we're a great fit for them to come and work with us in a variety of ways. And we have 4 different entities here that we're involved with. So they do come in and help us in the milk plant. They'll help us on the dairy. They'll work with me on events and programs and stuff. So just amazing.
We thank those in our community so willing to give back to others. And please get involved. Consider taking a moment to contact any of our farm partners and discover how you too can be a part of giving back.
I have had the pleasure of visiting Dakin Dairy Farms, and it is a very amazing place. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go out there and go through their corn maze and just see how the operation works, it's really, I really encourage you to go out there. It's just a phenomenal place. I hope to be able to visit the other 2 someday soon. I would like to please invite Executive Director of the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Elliot Falcioni, and Commissioner Vanessa Baugh to the stage. This is an important part of today's program to present this year's Champions of Tourism Award.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I have a loud Italian mouth. I'll cut it back a little bit. What do y'all think about the setting? I want to acknowledge somebody. I saw this room for the first time about 5 o'clock yesterday, so I had nothing to do with it. Amy Blankert, please stand up. A lot of hard work. I walked by her little car and saw tomatoes in the back seat one day and carrots the next day. Thank you for your hard work. I saw Tommy O'Brien's storefront. Is Tommy here? Did he leave? He's killing me. Because I hate them because that strawberry shortcake is so good, it's affecting my calorie count every week. So, so glad to have the farms here. Commissioner Baugh, as you all know, is on our Tourist Development Council. She is our chair, and we are honored today to showcase our 3 award winners, starting with the Industry Partner of the Year Award. And we take these awards seriously because without good collaboration and cooperation and partnering, we wouldn't continue to see the success that we see today. So staff and some leaders of the community talked about who the best person was, and it was quite easy to know that this person is a quiet leader in the community. He's a humble individual, and he's has one of the most consistent attitudes every day of the year as he ventures through the community, and not only supports the hospitality industry, but really just supports the community in a manner that just really benefits the quality of life for all of us. His positive attitude, his humility in life, has helped this community get the city of Pittsburgh to sustain the top 10 feeder market for the first time in over 23 years. So partnerships work, marketing works, and without the support of Trevor Gooby, we wouldn't be here today. Big part. Come on up, Trevor. See the humble guy that he is. And we all know that walk. But John Horn, we know he can run because we saw him pull the tarp out one day.
Trevor, you are quiet. Thanks. Thanks very much.
Please, would you like to say something?
Sure. Well, thanks to Elliot and his team, and we live in an awesome community, so the abundance that we have here is just really amazing. So thanks for all the farmers and the support today. I moved here in 2005, and McKechnie Field was historic, and Pirate City was probably prehistoric. And over the last 10 years, thanks to the TDC and Elliot and the county and the city of Bradenton, We really have transformed our facilities and the area, and it's just been really tremendous. So thank you for everyone. Really proud to see our Pittsburgh market be in the top 10. That was something that we've worked really hard on, and so thank you for that. And just thanks for everyone coming out today, and thanks for supporting spring training, supporting the sports industry here in the community, and we continue now that we have a team that's a good team again. So we're really proud of those guys as well. It's a little easier to get people out into the ballpark. So thank you for everything that you do for us, and we'll be back at it again. Thanks.
Can we get him to guarantee a world championship? This second award winner is a Tourism Ambassador winner. And I'm just going to throw out some words. And I think after probably about 10 words, you may figure out who this person is. First of all, we know he's a leader in the community. He's an unselfish person. We know he's a he. He is focused. He's a believer. He's dedicated. He volunteers in the community on initiatives that is not self-serving to his business. That's huge. That is huge. He's perceived as goofy, crazy, funny. Someone said something. John Horn. Wow. Nah. He's actually one of the most brilliant guys I've ever interacted with. And you know what? I don't believe I'm going to say this, but this community needs more John Horns. Congratulations. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Best picture all day.
For me. Thank you. Thank you very much. This means the world to me. It really does. I appreciate it. It's so nice to be here with all of you guys because it is what makes our community. It's our community is about taking care of our guests that come here. And I think everybody in this room does a tremendous job of taking care of our guests, from the restaurant people, the hotel people, the farmers. Even Tommy O'Brien takes care of people that come into our community. So that's nice. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate this so very much. Thank you.
John is actually our first two-time winner of the Tourism Ambassador Award. Three's a charm, John. See you in 10 years. Yes, our third... We put a 7-second delay on the microphone before he got up here, so parental discretion is advised.
He is fun.
Our third Tourism Ambassador Award is our good friend Barbara Rodacher. 23 years on the TDC. Personally, Barbara's been like a second mother to me. She's been a mentor. She tells me what she thinks, not what I want to hear. She was my sidekick in the TDC meetings where we could whisper stuff to each other, sometimes good things and sometimes we not so good things. But we believe in each other. One of the more successful entrepreneurs in our community has done a great job with Bridgewalk and Silver Surf, owned a property on Longboat Key as well. I've been here for 21 years. You've been on the TDC for 23 years. You're leaving me. But I'm glad that you're staying in the community. You'll still be active. We wish you the best. I still want that ride in the Corvette someday. I drive. And we have something that we want to show to the group as well, so let it roll.
I'm delighted to give a few words about my friend Barbara Rodacher, who I have known for almost 20 years. We've been competitors and friends. She's a very, very successful hotelier in a man's world. She's been always on the forefront of the business. She's been a very good competitor, and we're very good friends. I've always admired Barbara's ability to tell the truth and come up with original ideas and thoughts. And she's always had a good voice in the Tourist Development Council board meetings. She's always been able to articulate timely information that was important for us.
Hi, I have known Barbara Rodacker for around 35 years. She bought a resort for me in the mid-90s and has made it into an extremely large endeavor and a beautiful place. She is a dedicated, committed person who gives 110% of herself. She's part of the old guard, and I don't mean by age, but I just mean experience out here on the island. We have been out here for a very, very long time, and we know a lot of different things that have happened on this island, and she is a very, very good mentor to me. And I love her to death, and I wish her nothing but the best.
I first met Barbara Rodacker when the Beach House restaurant joined the Bridge Street Merchants, and I always found her to be so warm, welcoming, and wise. Barbara's a tough cookie. She says it like it is, and I respect that so much. She's done so much for our area, for our community throughout Manatee County, and really a lot for Bradenton Beach and Bridge Street. I don't think Bridge Street would be where it is today without her influence and insight. Barbara, congratulations on your long career and a wonderful family, and good luck to all you do in the future. Thank you so much for everything you've done for our area.
It's such a privilege and honor to be saying a few words about Barbara Rodacker, not only because she's my business partner and has been for nearly 18 years, she's also my mother. I've had the opportunity to see how my mother operates under lots of different conditions, and certainly her passion for this industry for all the years that she's been into it has bled over into how she represents the independent hotelier on the TDC. From marketing in the state of Florida to the United States and even over in Europe, she's been the voice for independent hoteliers in Manatee County for such a long time, and all the passion that she has for our tourism, she has brought to the council so that she could represent those in the area that didn't have the time, maybe couldn't, because when you're a small business, sometimes you just can't be there. So my mother, Barbara, has been an incredible voice for all of those people, and I'm proud. I'm proud that she served on the TDC as long as she had, and I am very proud that she's my mother.
Four years ago, Ed Hunsinger appointed me to this position, and my first meeting with Barbara, I looked scared. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing, but I guess Ed trusted me. And one of the nicest things Barbara said to me, she said, "Elliot, you're a winner." And I'll never forget that. Barbara, you're a winner, and thank you for your 23 years of service to our industry.
What an honor to see this people, all these people standing up for me. I have to tell people that as I was being raised, I used to consider myself a little farm girl. Well, down inside of me, there's still that little farm girl, and I'm still looking out for the little guy down here. That was my goal, to look out for the people who couldn't do for themselves, didn't have the funds, or didn't know how. That was my purpose on the TDC. It's an honor to be on with all the people I've been on, which have been several. And I'm kind of at a loss for words. I just did not expect this. I didn't expect any of this, but thank you all very much. Thank you for the privilege of being on this council. I'm going to be there yet. I'll be out in the audience somewhere.
Uh-oh.
Let me help you down these steps here. You don't need another Band-Aid on your nose.
No.
Thanks, okay, we're going to close this thing out here. I'm going to grab this microphone. And I'm not going to talk about tourism. I want to talk about community for a moment. I was trying to sit there, and I can't count to 10, John Horn. But we have like 8 or 9 or 10 communities in Manatee County. And I'm thinking, do we have 8, 9, or 10 communities, or do we have one? Why do we have several different communities? There's a reason for it. There's good reasons for it, and probably reasons because of conflict. You know, why do we have multiple chambers in this community? There's good reasons for it, and there may have been a time years ago that there was because of conflict or not believing in somebody or something. So my thought today is, if we're a strong community, a community of one, then every time we go to a meeting, how do we stay away from conflict? How do we leave a meeting with a plan that doesn't include conflict? There's something in the Bible that says you never want to go to bed upset or mad or angry because you carry it over to the next day. So let's take it into the 8 to 5 hour. Let's work the community. You all are stakeholders, you're leaders. Yeah, we're here talking about celebrating tourism, but you're here because you believe in the community. Conflict equals setback. Have a meeting with conflict, you set back. Another meeting with conflict, you set back. A meeting that's positive equals progress. More positive meetings, more progress. If we can just have 10% less conflict, how far can we go? And I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of elected officials here, and that is totally awesome because you believe in it. But if we as residents who vote the elected officials in have less conflict amongst ourselves, how better is that for not only the elected officials, for the governments? What are this government or the elected officials managing almost all the time? Conflict. Okay? So that's my thought for today. And we have a lot of leaders here. I know in my heart that if I waver as a leader in the workplace, it's a setback for our staff. You know why? They call me out. Elliot, why aren't you smiling today? That's all it takes. You know why? I smile a lot. And if I don't smile, which I hope is not common, there's maybe conflict in my head that carries into our staff. If we allow conflict to be around our kids, guess what's going to happen when they grow up? They're going to be in the middle of conflict. Middle East, hundreds and thousands of years of conflict. So let's start today and focus every day, because it's not easy to try to have meetings, effective meetings, stay away from conflict. It takes an unselfish mindset. Tough. Unselfish mindset is really, really tough. And you know what? If we walk away saying we have a plan and we're working together and we feel good, we'll see progress. I think it's as simple as that. But it's a daily focus that we have to focus on. So with that, it is so glad to be with everybody. So glad to have the farms involved, from Karen Dakin to Janet Mixon, 2 ladies that I'm scared to death of. You know why? They are passionate, they are on it, and if I'm not on my game when I see them, I have conflict, you know. So thank you. Staff of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, can you please stand up? All the green shirts. What did Debbie say? 54% of that shirt is recycled. I am only successful because of the people standing here. I am only successful because of Ed Hunsinger, Karen Winden, and I think they let Dan Schlank go on vacation. That's the way it works. We are only successful if we support each other wholeheartedly. We are only successful. All these numbers are because of all of us. It's as simple as that. University of South Florida, Joe Askren's here. I think Joe Benugla's here. There he is. Thank you for your support. Their staff was at the front of the house here in Milan Catering. What an awesome food menu that they helped. Good collaboration. The kids are our future. Students are our future. Let's put them to work, get them hands-on, and get them full jobs so they stay here and have success. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you.